This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.
Because I don't want to keep Lance Lambert waiting too long, because I think he's got another more important business meeting where he almost canceled this one on us.
I know, Mr. Minnesota North Star over there.
You know their company's from Minnesota, dude? That's crazy you say that.
There you go.
That's crazy. They're Minneapolis. Lance Lambert from Bovedainc.com and Sugar Sammy's joining us, hosting the program. A very funny comedian out of Toronto, or Montreal. Hey, bud.
Hey, how's it going? I was wondering if we were back on the comedy channel from the I'd be wondering there for a minute.
You know, listen, when you get some of the world's top comics going, I'd love to sit with you for over an hour and a half. You don't say no, put it that way.
Yeah.
He's a real, but you're a busy guy. What's going on, dude? Why are you so busy? Why you have no time for us today?
I had the regular time slotted, had to call the few doctors and the CEO that I'm supposed to see on right now. So, but they're flexible. I told them the situation. So all good. So, that's my schedule. It's nonstop, to say the least.
Well, let's get right into it. Lance Lambert, Bovedainc.com, two-way humidity control packs, keeping your flower fresh. A really interesting poll came out with Americans and decriminalizing drugs. Tell us about it.
Yeah, this is something that a lot of people have been talking about in the U.S. for some time now, as far as this favoring legalization of cannabis, and that's definitely a vast majority. I mean, the last result, I think, came in about 64% polled were in favor of legalizing cannabis on some level. But this latest poll from the Cato Institute actually said 55% of Americans are in favor of decriminalizing all drugs. And this is something that's only occurred in one other country that I'm aware of, that is Portugal, which did this back in 2001 when they kind of got back into the freedom of things in the back in the 80s. All of a sudden, things went to the extreme as far as consumption with all sorts of drugs, illicit drugs. And this was their way to counter. Early 2000s, they actually decriminalized everything, and they've been quite successful with it. I mean, they have 1/5 of what we have incarcerated for drugs in their prisons. And to give you an idea of how many people are in prisons in the U.S., I guess I should give some more insight on that. It's approximately 46% of all people incarcerated in the U.S. are incarcerated for some sort of drug charges.
Wow. I had no idea. The only thing, and it's a little bit of knowledge, and I think, Lance, we've actually talked about this in the past, but and it's basic statistics on the decriminalization in Portugal, which is, before decriminalization, what they would do is out of 100% of a budget, they would use 90% for policing and 10% for education. And since decriminalization, they basically reverse that, which is 10% only for policing and 90% for education. That's deaths have gone down, ODs have gone down, people going to jail have gone down. So you start to think of it in that light. Listen, I'm completely in favor of decriminalization, and same with prostitution as well. I'm serious.
Even more so.
Seriously. I mean, if you look at it from a different perspective, it's kind of changing the outlook from a cultural standpoint, though, right? As opposed to these are bad people, they're evil, and taking a different approach, maybe a more humanistic approach, and saying, hey, they need help, they're crying for help, they're leaning on things like drugs. And I should correct myself, that stat, 48.6 to be exact, percent of people incarcerated out of the entire population of the prisons here in the U.S. are incarcerated for drugs. So, it's definitely, to your point, if you shift your whole ideology towards it as a whole, as a community, I think it definitely is a good thing. It's just getting people on board. So it is nice to hear that more than half of the U.S. at least is in favor of some sort of ideology around that to stop criminalizing it and locking these people up for an issue, for a problem, really.
Pretty amazing stuff, really. Lance Lambert again from Bovedainc.com. The United States of Cannabis reveals each state's distinct cannabis identity. What does that mean?
Yeah, so, we always talk about the legalization, and obviously we go back as far as 1990 when cannabis was first legalized in San Francisco on a medical level, but a lot of our conversations around the adult use legalization, which first started in Colorado in January of 2014. So this was a stat that came out from the Green Market Report, and they actually got this insight from a company called LeafLink, which they actually processed 21% of all wholesale orders of cannabis products in the U.S. So they have a really good capture of data, approximately 3,800 plus retailers in 12 states across the U.S. So it's a good insight of what's going on, but it kind of gives a breakdown of what's popular. It's just saying what the shift is as far as interest in the method of consumption of cannabis based on if it's a newer or older state. So Colorado being a good example, right? The longest established legal adult use cannabis market. Top 3 products per category are cartridges, which is oil vapes, concentrates, and disposable vapes. Pre-rolls are on the rise, but you look at a more mature market like that where the more modern means of consumption seem to be the ones that are bubbling up to the top because they're more convenient, they're more accessible, they're more discreet. If you go the other way to, say, Pennsylvania or Michigan, which are newer states to the scene, the top product categories are flower and edibles, with cartridges in third place. So people are obviously doing the things that they knew pre-legalization, and that is the traditional method of smoking it or of cooking with it. So flowers and edibles definitely are more dominant in the newer states. So I think it's stuff we kind of could have, if you and I sat around and we're just talking about this, we could have come up with these stats. But it's nice to know that there's some legitimate insight reinforcing the beliefs that we'd have.
And what's that link again for that? Because I find that really interesting.
Yeah, that's greenmarketreport.com and / the United States of Cannabis reveals each state's distinct cannabis identity. And definitely something to throw up on your site. So it gives a breakdown from California, Colorado, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Michigan, PA, Arizona, and even Alaska. And then it says what the top selling product is specifically in each of those states. So like the Dosis Bliss, which you come out here oftentimes, Todd, to SoCal, you'll definitely be able to find the Dosis. This one, this product's gotten a lot of attention both in the industry and mainstream. It's very discreet, very modern, has specific dosing that the little pen actually vibrates when the complete dose has been given, which is unique. So a lot of people are attracted to that. And again, just its discreetness. It doesn't look like anything else. It doesn't look like mainstream vape products that you see maybe on the nicotine side of consumption.
Sugar Sammy, anything for Lance?
No, I'm just listening in.
Yeah,
Very
okay,
interesting. Yeah.
cool. It totally interesting. And I'm going to ask you about the last point you have here, but I should have circled back with the decriminalization of drugs. Do you think that's something that could ever actually happen in the United States?
I think it could. I think there's a lot of forward thinking. You know, the one thing that's another good link to maybe post up, it really breaks down who's for and against. If you look at it as a whole, all Americans, 55%, right? You guys won't be surprised knowing the basics of U.S. politics. 69% of Democrats are pro, 54% of independents are pro, 40% of Republicans are pro. So we know, and most, I think, around the world know that Democrats are a little more forward-thinking. Independents, very similar, maybe more bipartisan, slightly libertarian types. And then you have the Republicans, which are known to be more conservative. And it's also the Republicans that typically are behind things like privatizing the prison system here or, again, policing and reinforcing military efforts. So a lot of those conservative elements kind of go hand in hand with that political party. But it's nice to see that you take those three averages and they still come out to obviously an above majority number, which is huge.
You mean make people better, but have less people paying us for going to jail?
40% is still is more than I thought.
Pay for your drug problem?
Yeah. No, but Sugar Sammy says it's great. I actually would have thought, like, from the Republican side, it would have been like 10%, to be honest.
40% is more than I thought. That means the Republicans are now progressing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And it's maybe looking at cannabis almost as, you know, it's always been used as a form of, it's a gateway drug. Maybe it's the gateway drug in a different kind of context now. Maybe it is the gateway solution to people opening their eyes to alternative medicine. So take that term from the 80s that, you know, the DARE program and Nancy Reagan drove into our heads, and maybe put it on its ear and be like, yeah, it is a gateway to people understanding things like psychedelics and how they can help people with mental disabilities. I mean, you look at some of these historical studies, both on the private and public side, dating back to the 50s, the 60s, and it's pretty eye-opening. I mean, there's a lot of lies that have been told around several different types of drugs, yet the ones that kill us the most, I mean, opioid it's the number one killer in the U.S. right now. So, I mean, there's obviously good and bad, but I'd say, you know, the good ones should be legalized.
I'm still pissed off at Nancy Reagan. I can't eat a fried egg the same way ever again, you know?
You got those, huh?
Yeah. The fried egg on the pan. Say no to drugs. I'm like, this your brain on drugs? That's not fair. I want to just eat eggs.
It's 2019 though. Now it's scrambled egg whites.
Oh, yeah. Avocado toast. That's awesome, dude. Okay, Lance Lambert, bovedainc.com. 9 states are going to vote to legalize marijuana in this year and next, like 2020.
Yeah, it's something, again, we talk about this. The two numbers that commonly come up are number 11 and number 33. And these come up quite often because there are 33 states that have legalized medical cannabis, but there's also 11 states specifically have legalized adult use, or again, what some call recreational. So there are 9 states that are queued up for moving forward on voting in 2020. The number one is Arizona, which has had a very well established, one of the most successful medical programs in the U.S. over the past several years. There are some politics, and I don't mean mainstream politics. There's actually politics within the industry that have kind of hindered them moving forward on legalization of adult use. They've already voted on it twice, but we're thinking third time's a charm. Arkansas, which, again, has a medical program, but are open to the options. They have 2 ballot initiatives, actually, to potentially go legal on the adult use side. Florida, which is another one, it took a few times for them to move forward with medical. It's been so successful, though, that now there are talks around adult use. Here's one that amazes me, and it's a state I've considered to retire in at some point in my life, is Idaho, because Idaho, technically, cannabis is 100% illegal. They do not allow any use of cannabis whatsoever. They're kind of stuck in those Nancy Reagan days. So for Idaho to have this on the ballot, it is for a medical program, but still baby steps, right? Another big surprise you'll find, we've talked about the South before, Mississippi. And this is when, times are changing in some of the most conservative states. The Deep South is home of the most Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi. And so for Mississippi to have something up to potentially vote again on legalization, at least for a medical, the back end of the list is rounded off with Nebraska, New Jersey. New Jersey's had some struggles trying to move forward with adult use. Although Governor Phil Murphy is putting a lot of effort into it, he's tried and failed in 2018 campaign promises, but that could happen. The other is North Dakota and South Dakota. So North Dakota currently allows legal use for medical. South Dakota is another where it's completely illegal. It's very similar to Idaho. So to see these states that are coming around that you could still technically get stopped, and it's not just a slap on the wrist, it's a misdemeanor and or possible felony for possession of cannabis. I mean, that's a huge potential win for everyone. Yeah, really. It's the 21st century, Let's make this happen.
Let's hope. I want to ask Sugar Sammy, because being a comedian who travels around the world doing a lot of your sets and shows on tours and things, and a lot in France and Paris and stuff. Do people come up to you and be like, oh, you're Canada, the ones who legalized marijuana? Do you hear that at all? Or?
No, because you have Holland that's kind of taking the lead, and everybody knows, especially in Europe.
Yeah.
But it was news when it happened in Canada. The funny part is when it happened in Canada, we'd get all these images of Canadians going nuts the first day. Remember when it was legalized? There were lineups everywhere and people getting into fights. I'm like, man, you'll get it. Just relax. Can we just pass it in the lineup so everybody can chill out? Because we look kind of nuts. Because it was like, all right, man, everybody will get their supply, everybody get their fix. Just relax. But we look kind of nuts, like to everybody. I was watching that from France, shaking my head, going, all right, man, Canadians used to look relaxed and cool and friendly until they legalized.
Isn't that funny? That is very funny. It's so true, too. It's very true. Well, Lance, listen, I know it's a bit of a condensed version. You have other calls to get to, and we do appreciate it. I wanted you on the program. I was like, yeah, we're doing this. I'm getting Lance. So go get to your business, because it's probably more important than this. But we definitely appreciate your time, my man.
Definitely.
Oh, and you might as well say, because it looks like we're going to be broadcasting. I mean, I haven't confirmed it up on my end, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. But we're going to be broadcasting from MJ Biz in Vegas from the Boveda Inc. booth.
This is huge. This is a huge factor. We actually threw a second story on our booth just to accommodate you in this live taping of your show at MJ Biz Las Vegas in the States. So, yeah, we're definitely looking forward to having you. This is a big deal. I mean, and it's the biggest show of the year as far as B2B goes. So it's going to be fantastic to have you down.
What are the dates? I got to ask my wife. What are the dates again?
I smell another fight.
December 11th to the 13th. It's okay if you can only make it down for a day, but it is Vegas.
No, and it's the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right?
It's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Oh, perfect. No, I'll be there for all three shows.
Activities.
I'll be there for all. I'll figure it out. Awesome, my man.
We could take you with us over to Northern California Emerald Cup. We'll have one of our distributors from Africa and my rep from Germany. We'll just round it off with this whole kind of Benetton commercial mindset of multiple countries represented Emerald Cup. So maybe I'll hold you hostage and take you over there.
Hey, listen, as long as you tie me up, okay? I can do it.
Wow.
Thanks, Lance.
All righty.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys have a good rest of the show.
Cheers, bovedainc.com.
This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.